Coogan Cassius, IFL TV in association with MTK Global. We're at the headquarters here of Mr. Frank Warren. I'm joined by Frank Warren. Frank, you seem in a rather chirpish mood this morning.
It's the cold. It's the cold it gets me. It makes me feel good. No, all good. Everything's fine.
Would you rather stand out in the cold, this weather, for an hour and a half, or would you rather watch the cup final again?
I sat out in the cold watching it. That was worse than standing out in the cold. Oh, let's get it off my chest. What a disgrace, a spineless performance. It was awful. I don't know what's going on there. Well, I do know what's going on there. It's just going downhill further and further. And it needs a complete radical change at the Arsenal to sort it out. It's just awful for the fans. I think it's dreadful for the fans that they're just being taken for granted and nothing's being done about it.
Can you still see Wenger being there for the new season?
I don't think it's just Wenger. I think
it's
the owner, the whole thing. I think it's from top to bottom. Obviously, they don't care. Otherwise, they would do something about it. You've got somebody in the background in Mr. Usmanov who wants to invest a lot of money in the club, and bring changes there, and that's what the club needs. It needs changes. It's not beyond stale, and it's very, very frustrating. You pay, I'm pretty lucky to be able to get full to go on that, but you've got people putting their hard-earned cash on the line and they're being taken absolutely for granted. It's just awful. I mean, it's not just that game, it's the game the week before as well, the Europa League. I mean, how dreadful was that? I mean, what are these guys doing? Ozil, 350 grand a week. What for? He went missing again in the match. I mean, I don't understand it. And there we go, Man United by... In the last few years, they bought Van Persie, they bought Sanchez, and we got Danny Welbeck. I mean, you look at that and you wonder what's going on, don't you? It's just crazy stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, that's that.
Yeah.
I'm really down now. You've brought me down.
It's all right.
Go on, let's go.
Let's talk about obviously I caught up with you briefly after the show on Saturday at your call. And again, we spoke about it, but let's talk about defeat with Zelfa Barrett. Did an interview with him yesterday actually, and we know what a good talent Zelfa Barrett is. It wasn't his night. No. In his own words, he possibly underestimated Ronnie Clark, which was fair to say. But what did you make of his actual performance, Frank?
I think it wasn't the Zelfa Barrett I know. I mean, I'm a massive fan of his. I'm a big supporter, and I said before the fight, an interview with you, I put my faith in him and I believe in him, and this is all about judgment, and I got my judgment wrong at night. Ronnie Clark said at the press conference he was coming to win, and that's what he did. But that wasn't, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Ronnie Clark because he did what he had to do. He's a real, proper, old school, tough professional, and what he did was brilliant. But that Zelfa got dragged into and fought a fight that he shouldn't have been fighting. And maybe Ronnie got him to do that, but he should not have been doing that. He should be boxing. He's a much better boxer than that. And the sort of lads around him, he was winging them. He showed he's got plenty of heart, as I said, in our previous interview. Bad knockdown, got off the floor, came back. Sort of was on top at the end of the round. He got back right into it. But you need discipline in boxing. You need to, sometimes. You can, I'm not say believe your own hype, but sometimes you just think it's going to happen. That's how it's going to be. I'm going to just blow this guy out, and it wasn't to be. So I'm hoping that's a big wake-up call for him. I want to make the rematch because I think it'd be a good rematch, and then we'll see really what Zelfa's made of, because he's got to win that fight. If we're talking about him going on to big and better things, then he's got to beat Ronnie, and I think it'd be a great rematch, and I want to get that on.
Do you want to get that on in Zelfa Barrett's next fight, or not necessarily?
I'd like to. I spoke to his uncle Pat, trains and looks after him, and Pat said yesterday he's got the English title, because obviously he didn't lose that because Ronnie's Scottish, and I think they've got a defence of that that's got to be made. So we'll see. But whatever happens, I want to get that fight on in the next sort of 4 or 5 months. Absolutely.
I mean, it was a great fight for the TV. It was
brilliant for the fans.
Absolutely.
But that's great. That's what it's all about, isn't it? I always knew it was going to be a good fight because I knew Ronnie would come to fight, and I thought he'd get the best out of Pat. But actually, out of Zelfa. But what he got out of him, he got the worst out of him. He got the worst out of him. He just did not He didn't, you know. And when you look at him, he was looking for winding up for real big shots, you know, wanting to stand toe to toe, and that's not really what he should be doing. You know, boxing is what it is. It's the art of boxing. It's the art of hitting and not being hit. We know Pat can punch. I keep calling him Pat. Sorry, excuse me. We know Zelfa can punch, but it's the art, as I say, it's the art of hitting and not being hit. And you know, he needed to get his composure. He had no composure in that fight whatsoever, and unfortunately, that's what let him down. He was fighting with that rather than with that.
Moving on to Daniel Dubois, obviously he made it 7 straight KOs since turning pro. We know he hasn't been well.
Well, he's had flu.
Yeah,
listen, everybody's had it, haven't they? I mean, he had it for about a month. That's why he pulled out the fight. And apparently he only had a couple of, I think 1 or 2 sparring sessions afterwards. But I'm not going to make excuses for him. You know, he won the fight. And he dealt with a guy who was unbeaten, and he was a big lump. He was a tough sod. He old manned him at times. He was holding him. He was awkward to fight. But Daniel did what he had to do at the end of the day, which is stop him. And you can't do no more than that. Pete, I've heard some people a little bit of criticism, which I'm a bit surprised at. You know, when you I mean, listen, I'm a big supporter, and I'm saying and I do believe he's one of the best heavyweights, if not the best heavyweight at his age that I've seen, and with his experience in my time in British boxing. But when you're talking about the opponents that you know he's fighting, you're talking about Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua's experience as an amateur was he fought for England many times, but he fought in the World Amateur Finals, got to the final, and I thought he actually won it. He got a bad decision there. He won a medal in the Olympic Games. So he's had plenty of grounding. Daniel had 7 senior amateur bouts. Deontay Wilder, somebody mentions to me about Deontay Wilder, Deontay Wilder won a bronze medal in the Olympic Games. These guys are older than him, they've had more grounding than him, but he's a learner, and what he does well, and I certainly am not even going to make excuses for him. I'm just talking about the experience he's had and where he's at. These guys didn't turn professional and have 10-round fights in their second, third fight. None of them. He did. And I think that, you know, by the end of the year, as I said, he's going to be in a real strong position. And I think, I know how capable he is, but he just needs experience. He's capable, he's a learner, you only got to look at him. He's in the gym, he trains hard. Martin's doing a fantastic job with him. And I think he will just go from strength to strength. He's a quality heavyweight. And I think he's the best young one out there. No respect to Nathan and all the other guys, I just think he is. And obviously Nathan Gorman done a brilliant job. He done what he had to do. And again, he's progressing, he's doing really well. So hopefully down the road we're going to get a great fight between those two when they get a bit more experience and get some more fights under their belt.
I mean, when you look at the age of Daniel Dubois, and he's only been pro a year, had 7 fights, but is it difficult to match him with people kind of putting pressure on the opponent step up?
What's his name, the guy what's his name, that guy who's going to fight? The one we offered all the money, who wanted like 100 grand.
Nick Webb.
Nick Webb. You know, he wanted 100 grand to fight him. I mean, you know, this is ridiculous, stupid money. If you want Nick Webb, got no problems with you, you're great. You want to fight, you can have the fight, but you ain't getting 100 grand for it. How are you getting 100 grand to fight on an undercard of a show? To fight Daniel Dubois. If Daniel Dubois, as you say, is nothing, then you certainly should be getting 100 grand for it. Fight him. Your fight's there for him. Make a name for yourself. You beat Daniel Dubois, you'll be in the big money. You'll be in the big time. Go and do it. Don't talk about it. You want to fight him for sensible money. That fight can be made like that.
Is there a list of fighters that have just declining the fight for whatever reason?
It's not about decline. It's also what you're trying to do as well. Look, let's get it right. We know that Daniel can punch. We know if he clips somebody, they're going to go. What I want him to do, I want to get rounds under his belt. There's questions to be asked about Daniel. What's he going to be like if he gets into the latter rounds of a fight? You know, has he got a good machine? You know, has he got a good engine? I've seen him clipped a couple of times, and he seems not to be fazed by that. But it's, you know, when you get into the late stages of the fights, that's when suddenly things fall apart. And I don't know what he's like. So what I'm looking for is guys that will hopefully give him some rounds. And if you're putting him in with undefeated fighters, like we did last time out, then you're hoping to get something out of that. But, you know, as it was, I think it was a good experience for him. Coming off of, and as I say, you know, got in there and did what he had to do. Another bit of experience for him. You know, more he can put into you know, more ammunition that he's got moving forward. Got him with an awkward guy who held him, messed him around, old manned him, and he was, you know, and I don't blame him for doing that. But once he got his room, once he got his range, it was all over.
Anthony Yard, victorious again. His opponent, Tony Avalon, retiring after 7 rounds.
He took a belting, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he was tough. He took a belting, and they done the right thing.
Stepping it up for Anthony Yard now.
Well, we did step it up. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy he fought, good record. I mean, he's got a bad record. I mean, he's a tough sod. We see that, and I know what their game plan was. They thought that Anthony, you know, you're fighting Anthony. Let's let him blow himself out. Take him again into the latter rounds. He tried to do that, but what I was pleased about that fight, he never dropped off at all. Anthony kept that same work rate up. He's got a good engine, and he wasn't puffing and blowing. The stamina was there, so I was highly delighted with that. It was another thing, you know, another little thing in my mind that I was pleased that he did, and he managed to accomplish. And in the end, you know, that fella had to be put out. He took a belt. And when you think that was, you know, that Bozial, Dominic Bozial, he went the distance, didn't he? We were going to give him a tough fight, you know, and look at the experience that Bozial's had compared to what Anthony's had. But it was at your call, the show. It was what it was all about. Our young prospects. They all had decent opponents. They had guys in there who give the best they could give, and they came through. And we had a great fight with Zelfa and the old victorious Scotsman who came down there and done the job, Ronnie. So that was good. I was pleased overall with them. They're out again at the O2. They'll be fighting at the O2 on the 14th of May. Sorry, the 14th of April on the undercard of Billy Joe Saunders and Terry Flanagan's world title challenges.
Just going back to Anthony Yard, I know we've spoke about this 1,000,001 times before, and after Saturday night, you said, as in reference to Frank Buglioni, you used the expression flogging a dead horse. So are you just completely dismissing that now?
We've not heard from him. We made him an offer. Here we are. It's now Tuesday. Not heard a word from him. So.
What, you've made a recent offer?
Well, we made an offer. I think it was about a month ago, or whatever it was. But we made a written offer. But if you want the fight, you'd get on the phone. It's not an offer we've taken off the table. That offer's still on the table. If he wants it, have it. But it ain't gonna happen. The trainer don't want it, and the trainer, you know, Don Charles is a smart guy. He's a good operator. I'm not saying. I don't for 1 minute think that Frank Buglioni fears Anthony Yard. I'm sure he'd step in the ring with him tomorrow, but the people around him don't fancy it.
Frank, obviously some tragic news from a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Where we learnt that boxer Scott Westgarth had sadly passed away. Your thoughts on this, Frank? It's absolutely heartbreaking.
Look, it's dreadful, and obviously, everybody's thoughts are with his family and his friends. There's no words you can express for that. It happens. It very rarely happens in boxing, but when it happens, it is a dreadful occurrence, and it's a direct result of the sport. It is a dangerous sport, and you try all you can to safeguard the boxer's welfare. You know, Border Control got very stringent medical procedures, and obviously at the ringside there is we have obviously the doctors in attendance, paramedics, ambulances to ensure that they and if a boxer gets injured, that they can get to hospital very quickly. The venue's never more than an hour away from a neurological unit, because obviously it's imperative, as what their class is called in the golden hour, if a boxer gets an injury to the brain, that they can be operated on as soon as possible. Unfortunately, that didn't happen on Saturday, and it is dreadful, and there's just no words for it. How do you explain boxing away when that happens? I've been in boxing for many years now, nearly 40 odd years, and I each time you look at it, you can at times question the sport. You can do that, but all you can do is to make it as safe as possible, and hope that these fatalities and these injuries do not happen.
This was, I believe, the third death in Britain in the last 5 years, with Mike Towell and Michael Norgrove. Back in 2013. I was reading just on my way here, actually, the board have said that they're going to be looking to take more steps. What can they actually do, Frank, to
I don't know what
to
you
reduce
can do.
the risk
all
of
you
this?
can do is, many years. I remember I was in the sport for when I started. It was 15 years. I never got involved in any. There was no fights where there was any fatalities that I was involved in, and it was 15 years. And then a couple happened quite quickly. One after the other, and the neurosurgeons who were involved in operating on the boxers and their aftercare at that time, like, Dr. Hammond and his colleagues, other neurosurgeons, they got together and actually helped to put together these procedures to help. About this. I mentioned the golden hour. Make sure the boxers are no more than there's a neurological unit no more than an hour away from the venue, paramedics being in place and various other safety procedures, and it has improved, but it is a dangerous sport, and at the end of the day, that is a danger for all boxers when they step in the ring. I'm sure the board, as all the promoters, myself included, we will do all we can to ensure that the boxer's health and should anything happen like this, should any injuries occur, that it's paramount in getting any assistance and any additional medical requirements that are needed at ringside. But at the end of the day, it is a dangerous sport. You can't take that away from it. It's what it is.
We obviously send our condolences to
as I say,
Scott Westgarth's family, and
Scott's family must be devastated at the moment, and it's a terrible tragedy, terrible.
Did you watch any of the other boxing from the weekend? I know you had your show Saturday night.
I see Callum Smith's fight. Yeah, I see that. I see the tape and recording of it.
Yeah, he was fighting someone who's more known in the martial arts background.
Yeah, I mean, he won it. It wasn't the most emphatic performance, and it is what it is. I mean, he's now fighting George if George is ready to go, whenever it is. Is it he pushed it back to July? Somebody was telling me.
I think George has asked for it to be pushed back a month to give him the most amount of time. Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to actually watch the fight yet. So
no, I see it. It's I was quite surprised the fellow did what he did. He was quite competitive, but he was what he was when he was a 34-year-old kickboxer. 13 fights or 14 fights.
I know. I think ITV got Nassim back in the studio, I believe, after his performance, shall we say?
We've seen his performance. We've done it the other week, didn't we? I know where he's coming from when he says that about Eubanks. I mean, he's looked at him and said, "Well, what you're doing, you're never going to get. You're not going anywhere. So you might as well retire." That's what he's saying. What you've done, right? You might have got yourself a few quid out of that fight, but at the end of the day, you ain't winning nothing if you perform like that. That's what he's saying. So if you're not changing it, then retire.
But is it not refreshing to hear kind of that?
Well, Naz is like that.
Talk from
Naz. I've known Naz.
Whether you agree with it or not, it's a different matter.
He came to the football with me a couple of weeks ago. Well, it was about 10 days ago. He came to the match with us. And I've known Naz all these years. I actually did know him. I mean, I don't make out that I hung out with him. When I used to go down nightclubs with him and watch him knock big lumps out when he was 16. Just to get you known, Mr. Hearn, I believe you're 38 years of age, and Naz is 6 years older than you. So when he was 16 going down nightclubs, according to you, you was 10. I don't know what you was doing in nightclubs at 10 years of age. God, your old man should be ashamed of himself. He's letting you in nightclubs at 10. But Naz did not go down nightclubs knocking big lumps out. I mean, it just didn't happen. Naz actually he was a little bit of a, cheeky sod when he was younger, but he wasn't a bully or a liberty taker. And remember, he was as big as that. He weren't some big lump. And he certainly, I don't believe he was hanging out with Eddie Hearn, who lives in Brentwood and he lives in Sheffield, when he was 16 and he was 10. I just don't believe that was happening. And he wasn't a professional, by the way, then. used to go out, used to go to all the shows with Brendan. He's then manager and trainer, so that's another fantasy one. A bit like that, the boxing career, the bogus boxing career. Where's that card you got? Where's your amateur card? I want to see it. Anyway, let's go. Where is that amateur card? What you done with it?
Well,
Billy Ricky Dicky, the old heavyweight, or was it? Wherever it was.
yeah, I'd like to see that footage if it's. Someone's got it somewhere.
Got what? What, the card?
No, the actual footage of his amateur bouts. I'm sure someone's got it somewhere.
Who, Naz?
Oh, who are you talking about? I was talking about Eddie Hearns.
Yeah, where is the I don't know where they are. I don't know. I mean, all I know is that if you're
it's
an
knocking
amateur,
about somewhere.
Is it good? Well, let's have a look at it. All I know is when you're an amateur, you have a card. Don't you? All amateurs have a card. Did you box?
No.
No. Okay. All right.
Not legally, Frank.
No. What do you used to do? Box kippers?
Exit Sainsbury's.
Down the fish market.
Exit Sainsbury's.
Yeah. Hey, let's get on to serious stuff.
Yeah.
Let's get back to reality.
You've got a little bit of a break now from shows until.
Actually,
tell a lie. You've got a show on the second.
Some of our youngsters are out
Yeah.
at York Hall on Friday. That'd be a nice run out for all of them, and that's just keep them busy. And then March is unusually for us. It's very quiet. Then we kick in April with some really good promotions, some quality promotions, and May.
Sounds like there's going to be quite a large card on the 14th.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is a large. You've got Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray. I'll read them out. Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray. You've got Terry Flanagan, Maurice Hooker. You've got Anthony Yard, Daniel Dubois on there. We've got O'Hara Davis on there. We've got Darryl Williams against Lennox Clark, which is a good fight. We've got Johnny Garton on here, Lewis Petit, Ryan Garner, who looked really good on Saturday night. He got on there late. He was a floater, but I really, speaking of Naz, he's a little bit like a young Naz. Sajeev Sahota, Jake Petit, and Khalid Majid. All on there at the moment. And one more to go on.
So yeah, obviously that's the debut, the Frank Warren debut of O'Hara Davis on the 14th as well. Is talk of an opponent for that?
I think the boys are working on it at the moment.
Yeah.
And then we get a fight on. And they got it's an important night really because Terry's on there and he's got a tough fight in Maurice Hooker, and if he comes through that, then we've got a couple of really good fights to be made there. We've got Jake Cattrall who's fighting on the undercard at Leeds, got O'Hara on this card. So I'd like to see those three get it on between them. It'd be really good British domestic fights, so that's what we're working on today.
Ticket sales for Leeds, how'd they go?
Brilliantly. Really good. We're very pleased where we're going with that. We're still, we're 3 months away from that. So, it's going excellent.
What's the max that can hold in there? Ellen
It's
Road?
about 35,000, isn't it? 36,000, something like that, yeah. So that'd be right. That's going well. We're going to make a little bit of an announcement about a bit of entertainment that's going to be on
I
up
heard.
there as well.
I heard,
We can't do it yet.
We can't do it yet. I'm a big fan of theirs as well.
So am I, so that'd be quite exciting, wouldn't it? I'm looking forward to that, and let's hope we don't have a riot there.
Was the last stadium show you done? Was it Hey Chisora?
West Ham.
Hey Chisora.
Yeah, I think it's West Ham. Yeah.
Remember, there was a raining night in Upton Park.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great night.
Yeah, it's a good night, good atmosphere, and
no one cares when there's the boxing's good and it's raining.
no. That's right. Well, you prefer it not to rain, but
No, but they get involved in the atmosphere. It's great.
But it was. I mean, and I'll tell you what they did, didn't they? It was a great fight as well. It was a good fight.
Oh, really? 6 years ago? 6 years ago.
5, 6 years ago. Yeah, yeah. We did it on our early BoxNation days, wasn't it?
Yeah. I miss them days, you know.
Well, we've had some really good shows, and we've got some seriously good shows. We've got a few ones coming up in this next few months. Obviously Belfast. I think, as I say, I think we've only got about 300 tickets left at Belfast. So some stragglers, a few tickets around, and that's sold out. So that's going to be a fantastic night as well. I'm looking forward to that. And Leeds will go well. Build show's doing all right, so not bad start to for BT's financial year, because their financial year starts in April.
If you could pick 4 fights that you'd like to happen in the next 12 months. Hit me, Frank.
Hit you.
Hit me with them.
Hit me with my ring.
Any 4 fights
Billy
you
Joe
can
Saunders, Golovkin, or Canelo, but Golovkin wins. I'd love to see that fight. I'd like to see Tyson Fury in with Joshua. It's a natural. I'd like to see, from my perspective, because I'd like to see Terry Flanagan in with one of either O'Hara, Davis or Catterall, and I'd like to see, or Terry Flanagan, he craves for the fight with Lomachenko. Now, that's a tough fight, but he wants it, and I think that would be quite interesting to bring Lomachenko over and Terry in the ring. That would be, he fancies that fight, so I'd like that. Other fights that I would like, and I'd like to see, and it's not going to happen, I just would like to see it just from a personal point of view, is Anthony Yarde against Bullioni.
Yeah, go along with all them, Frank.
But I'd like to see them happen quick, because there's another, but I'd like to see all those happen in June, and then move on to the rest of the year, because there's a lot of good fights out there to be made. A lot of good fights to be made. Some cracking fights.
Cracking fights. Anything else going on?
No, I think that's about it at the moment. I think that's all that's happening on our front. And it's all good, and we're quite we're feeling quite comfortable where we're going and what we're doing. It's taken a long time. It's taken a long time to get to where we're getting. What we get to, having left Sky. And it has been a long process, but we showed that we got resilience. We showed that we can, build fighters, without the backing of big TV companies. But now we're involved with BT. We go from strength to strength.
Are you going to be one of these promoters that are promoting in their 90s, like Bob? Not that saying he's 90, but he's touching it.
86, 87.
All right, he's touching it.
Who knows what he's doing? Listen, please God, I'm alive. Who knows? You never know, do you? Who knows?
Have you got like a plan to say,
No, I never had a plan to even get in boxing. I've done that by accident. It was pure accident. I got into sport. Weren't by design. Just wake up and get on with your day, don't you? And that's it. No, I quite enjoy it at the moment. We've got a great team around us. All these youngsters and floating around in the office, so everybody's keen and eager, and they're all, we've got a good team here, and they're all, so as long as they're there, and I'm supposed to be steering the ship, helping to steer the ship, so
what would make you not want to promote anymore, Frank?
I think it's a terrible thing, like the tragedy the weekend. That's when sometimes you question the sport and you look at it and you think, God, you step back. But then what would happen? The sport would go underground, and it wouldn't get medically supervised properly as it should have done. We all know that those type of fights happen. So I think you've got to, try and do your best. And I've been around long enough to think, and seen these situations happen, to hope that that you can contribute something to make it safer for the boxer. And that I know that the Border Control, who've been very good in that department, are very, very much aware of, and obviously know they've got the responsibility to ensure that they're protecting the boxers, as we all have. But it is a very dangerous sport, no doubt about that. And you can't kid people. I remember, going back to when tragedies when I first started the sport, and people really had that old thing about, but it keeps kids off the street and all that. And I think, what a terrible excuse to make for somebody getting injured or losing their life on those rare occasions in boxing. But it does actually do that. When you think now, you look at it, there are kids without boxing, who knows what will happen to them? With their life gone down a different path? Would they have, been involved in gangs where their lives are dangerous and so forth, and things like that. So there are obviously a lot of pluses to boxing, and boxing, I think, does more good than it does harm. But albeit saying that, it is a dangerous sport.
How much of the competition side of things has drive you on, Frank?
I'm naturally competitive. I am, I'm like that anyway. I was playing you a game of drafts with you. I'll be competitive. That's how it is. I enjoy it. And for me, I don't get all. I'm not like, you know, I can have a laugh about it. I mean, sometimes I quite enjoy the, the bit of the silly banter and the teasing and all the crap that goes on. But if it's not, me and Matchroom, it was me and whoever it was at the time, all the different people. That's all part of it. But it's all about having a bit of staying power. Boxing. I always say boxing. It's not a 100-metre race. It's a marathon. And I've been in this marathon for a long time. You look like you've had boxes of marathons, and that's where I'm at. I just want to keep doing what I enjoy, and I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it at its best. At boxing at its best, and seeing a young guy like seeing Ryan Garner the other night, knowing what a good talent he is, knowing what an idiot he was last year, the trouble he got himself in, but knowing that the only thing that's going to it gives him something to go for in life, and sense of purpose and discipline, is the boxing. And when you look at that, you think that's how good boxing, how it's good. And I like to be part of that. I like to be involved because, there are a lot of guys out there that you meet, and you want to be on that journey with them. You want to see this young kid suddenly have a God-given talent, develop it, and then hopefully go and make himself a decent living out of it, make his family secure. That's a good feeling to have, and be involved in it. And we're professional, and obviously we make money out of it. But to see that they come away with, with money and a good, titles, and hopefully establish themselves as a legend in British sport. That's why I like to be involved with Naz, Kawasaki, Joe Kawasaki, Ricky Hatton, Frank Bruno, all those guys. It was just great fun to be involved in, and we're doing it in a month with Billy Joe Saunders. I think it's going to go on to bigger and better things, and many other fighters.
One thing I've noticed in boxing over the last 7 or 8 years, as long as we've been doing it, that people have always said about you that kind of you can never write Frank Warren off mentality.
Well, I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm here. I'm not been anywhere. I'm here.
But there has been like a promotional merry-go-round with up and down.
But what it is, it's not even promotion.
I'm not talking specifically to you. I'm saying in general the whole promotional game.
No, what it is, it's a television. It's led by television. Whoever is the dominant TV company at the time, and whoever's really interested in boxing, they're throwing a bit of money at it. When I left Sky, they stopped throwing money at boxing. They were bailing out of boxing. I don't care what anyone says. They were bailing out. They were cutting the money down. You go and speak to Ricky Hatton, he'll tell you that, and Maloney, wherever he is now. You asked all of them. They were cutting back on the money, and you had to go and do something. So what I did, and went off and did my own thing and helped get involved with a group of people to form BoxNation. Luckily for some people, luckily for someone, BT came along, and suddenly they got worried that BT were going to get in boxing, so they started throwing money back in it. Because you remember there'd been 2 bad pay-per-views. They were 2 really stinkers of fights, and Sky after that said no more pay-per-view. They were out. So that was when boxing was really down. And as I've just mentioned, what happened with BT, etc. And Matchroom were in the right place at the right time, so they benefited from that. They benefited in a big way. So Sky throwing money at them to put on fights. We'd brought a lot of fights through. People like Kell Brooks, all those guys who come through. Kell Brooks was number 1 in the world when him and I.
For Pacquiao.
Yeah, I got him in number 1 spot, and then our contracts expired, and I told his dad I didn't want to renew it because his dad was involved, which probably for me is a bit stupid because I had no problem with Kell. The dad used to drive me around the bend, and it happened with a couple of guys. So they benefited from all that, and obviously they've been in a position which really Anthony Joshua for him was like manna from heaven. And at the time it was out of us, I think, and then who Anthony Joshua was going to go with. Who knows where he'd have gone with if BT had been around at the time. He was convinced that he was going to get huge sponsorship deals being on Sky rather than being on BoxNation, and he made his choice. And good luck to him. He's done extremely well, and he's been great for British boxing, Anthony Joshua. He's absolutely livened it all up, and that's fantastic. So that's been great for Matchroom. They've done well out of it, and that's where they are. But it's not that question of writing me up. It's a question of I know what I want to do. I'm focused on what I want to do. And no one's had it harder than us as far as financially. As people remind, go and look at the accounts. see the investment that's been made in and the losses that have been made. We continue to do it because we believe in ourselves, and more importantly, because we are boxing. We're involved in boxing. We haven't just dumped it. You know, Barry Hearn in the past, when he was started losing money in boxing, he was out. He left. I'm out of town. Boxing's finished. He went record. You look at some of the old interviews. You know, I'm out of boxing. It's dead. It's this yesterday's news. It's never going to go because he couldn't have it, so nobody else could have it. He was slagging it off, and it's turned round again. Boxing is a great sport at its best, and now I think we're in a real good era where you've got BT. You've got BoxNation, you've got Sky, you've got Channel 5, and there's another one, isn't there? Another
Dave.
That's brilliant. When did boxing ever have that exposure? And all those all those people, you know, doom and gloomers about boxing, it's never had so much exposure in this country on TV, which is great. So, you know,
Long may it continue.
well, of course it will, and it'll have its ups and downs and whatever. But at the end of the day, at its best, it's a great sport. There's no sport like boxing. There's no sport like watching. There's no sport like watching boxing. Like, you know, Arsenal play somebody, they get beat, they play a game next week. You have a tennis tournament, you lose Wimbledon final, you go and play in a Grand Slam the following couple of weeks later. You know, golf, also boxing. Your whole career can depend on one fight. And the build up to that fight, all that goes on that's involved in it, it's drama. It's pure drama. At the end of the day, it's all about two guys in there, a battle of wills, using their brains and their God-given skills to beat each other. And there's nothing like it at its best. Nothing like it in sport, in my opinion.
Okay. On that note, Frank Warren, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV.
You,
unless there's anything else you want to slip in.
That's the actress said to the vicar. No, that's it.
Yeah, we will definitely catch up with you soon.
We will. Yeah.
Love a pun here on IFL, Frank.
All right.
And yeah, we'll catch up with you soon. So thank you very much for your time.
And you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.